I would now request Shri Vijay Arora to give his introductory remarks, please.
So, good morning to everyone. I thank the organizers of Maritime Gateway and Future Fuels, along with the supporting organizations, for giving us the opportunity to discuss or to share our thoughts on the issue of decarbonizing shipping and issues and challenges. I go to the next slide, please. So this anything which starts with a strategy, and if you look at IMO has been working on how the various emissions which have been there in the atmosphere have been controlled over a period of time. We talks about NOx emissions came, tier 1, tier 2 requirements came, then it came to sulfur desulfurization, and later on it came out with the this IMO strategy on decarbonization and saying that how we can further improve the GHG emissions. So this IMO strategy was adopted in April of 2018. The vision was to phase out GHG emissions from international shipping as soon as possible in this century. And to achieve this, we desired that the combination of factors was taken into account, that carbon intensity should improve by improving the EEDI. Then we should reduce the CO2 emissions by 40% by 2030 and 70% by 2050, and to reduce the GHG emissions by 2050, all compared to 2008 levels basically. So the framework was put in place. Can you go to the next slide? So to achieve the vision, there were short-term, mid-term, and long-term measures adopted. Short-term measures were from 2018 to 23, 23 to 30 are mid-term, and 230 onwards will be long-term measures basically. We are currently in the short-term measures, and when we look at those measures basically, we can see that if you recall, in 2018, we came out with something, SEEMP Part 2, which talked about how the fuel consumption should be collected, and 2019 we started collecting the fuel consumption. And then in 2020, we have talked about that how the new ships, the EEDI phase can be advanced, and that is how the new ships are helping us to see that the CO2 emissions can be reduced. At the same time, we are coming out in 2023, where EEXI and SEEMP Part 3 are coming out, where in EEXI we'll be using the IMO fuel consumption data, which is available with us, and to see that the carbon intensity indicator will be used to see that how both existing ship and the new ship combined together are able to help us achieve the 40% reduction of CO2 emissions by 2030. So we go to the next slide. So this is talking about the various phases of reductions which were applicable for EEDI, mostly from the new ships. Basically, the success started from 2013. The efforts are on since 2013, and the efforts are on the direction that how we can reduce the CO2 emissions by designing ships in a manner that the fuel consumption is reduced. And as stated in the IMO strategy in 2018, the phase 3 has now been advanced to see that there are certain ship types of larger tonnage will be requested to see that they start building ships in a manner that the CO2 emissions are reduced. And this advance from phase 3 to phase will take place from April of 2022, where such ships, maybe gas carriers, container ships, will be advised to see that they have further reduction factors of 30% applicable basically. Go to the next slide, sir. As just stated that the combination of new ships and existing ships will continue for some time while we are using fossil fuels, and new ships are being designed with the higher reduction factors. Even the existing ships need to see that they catch up with the new ships basically. And for that matter, IMO came out with the regulation, which regulation states that ships of 400 GT and above, and certain ship types which are mentioned regulation 25, and if their threshold value is greater than certain dead weight, then they are subjected to this regulation basically, and that is how the attained EEXI will be calculated. The required EEXI will be calculated, and we'll be comparing that attained EEXI should be less than the required EEXI to see that the ships are issued the technical file and they are issued with the International Energy Efficiency Certificate. This will be mandatory. This will be mandatory from initial from 1st January 2023, coming on any annual intermediate renewal survey falling due after this date. But the regulation will become effective from 1st November 2022. I would like to little reinforce on this issue that 1st November 2022. I think that date is basically a very important date. By this date, the ship owner should ensure that this technical file, if it is possible, can be placed on board to see that the technical file is placed on board. And if in case the PSC boards the vessel, you have a technical file available with you. And then IEC can be issued when the surveyor boards on board after the 1st January 2023 for whatever survey, first survey falling due. So we can go to the next slide.
I just remind you, your 5 minutes are almost up, sir. But
Okay,
please continue.
I may take 3-4 more minutes, sir, if you don't mind. Otherwise, I'll be faster, no problem. I'll be a little faster. But so this is talking about attained and required EEXI, which I talked about. Here I have just given information as to what all documents are required, what all parameters required for submission for calculation of attained and required EEXI. They on the screen, specific fuel consumption is required, engine power is required, capacity and deadweight and reference speed is required, and conversion factor is required. For calculation of the attained EEXI, required EEXI has a formula which talks about that we need to have the reference line value and the reduction factors are available. Here, the important point is that the reduction factors for EEXI are compared to the phase 2 of EEDI. That means today's ships which are going to existing ships, they have to match with the EEDI of those ships which are built with the phase 2 requirements, which is a very difficult task, but the owners have to do that basically. Here, a little more difficult task is that if the ships are built before 2013 and if they don't have the sea trial report, then there are little issues basically. But yes, those issues can be resolved where if in case either you can opt for the option that approximate value can be used, or you can go for the CFD analysis. Approximate value helps you, but it is not so encouraging for the ship owner because the attained EEXI goes on the higher side by which the ship owner is affected. But if the CFD techniques can be used to really determine the B reference because which is not available, then the ship owner is at least he is not affected sadly basically. We go to the next slide. So these are few other situations which can help us to, if the attained EEXI is not less than the required EEXI, everybody is aware of engine power limitation, then we can always superimpose certain fixtures like bulbous bow, or we can put some boss cap fins, or we can adopt for air lubrication systems. So these are energy saving devices which are available, which can be used if in case attained EEXI is coming to be greater than the required EEXI basically, or we can use combination of factors also. Here again, I like to say a few things basically, which is important, that let us be very clear that if in case we are able to meet EEXI today, it is good, but you have to meet CII also for all the times till the time you are going to operate these ships. So it is always better to improve your attained EEXI to larger extent so that the design itself takes care of your operational efficiency, because the ships are old, they cannot operate more efficiently than what they are operating today. You can control to some extent, but if in case you can bring such energy saving devices fitted on your ships, you will be able to run these ships for a larger period, because the CII will be then this design efficiency will give you a factor in the CII part basically. We can go to the next slide. So this is again for the use of the industries, the people who are going to sail on board, because EPL when used, basically the EPL if used, it is not that you cannot override it. You can override it in certain situations which are mentioned in the onboard manual. Basically, it could be adverse weather condition, it could be rescue operation or avoidance of pirates, and in those cases you need to record in the onboard manager manual, and then you have to inform the administrator, the RO, to see that you did use it, and at the next port you see that you bring back to the normal. And records which are required to maintain the OMM manual are listed over here, which you can always, when the onboard manual will be there, they'll be referred to this. So we can put the next slide. So this is the calculations what we have done for the vessel which are where the data is available with us. We have calculated and seen that this example is only for tankers and bulk carriers we have taken, and you can see the red dots are above the blue dots. The blue dots are basically the required EEXI for tankers and bulk carriers. The red dots are above. That means the attained EEXI is not meeting. So most of the vessels today, as you see, almost 90% of the vessels which are at least with us, basically they have a problem that they will not be able to meet unless they adopt some measures basically. And the range in which the measures are required to adopt it may range from 55 to 75%, which may lead to reduction of speed from 15 to 5% basically. So we can go to the next slide. So this slide is an important slide. Here we are talking about the CII part and the new regulation again, which is coming from the operational energy efficiency measure. Here we see that in 2023, when this regulation comes into force, already you have to have the reduction of 5% basically, which from the 2019 data fuel database, which is there, 5% reduction, which people should have taken into account, but not many people must have taken into account. So there is something to be done on the operational efficiency measure so that you meet this. Otherwise, it is quite possible the ratings which are given A, B, C, D, E. There is a once you calculate that, we have given example over here for a certain ship where the required CII part is, let us say, if it is 10 and the attained EEXI comes to 9, she falls into B category. But then, as and when the period lapses, basically the same ship, because of no further improvement, may go to C, D, and E, and that becomes a discouraging factor for the ship owner basically. This can be explained in the next slides. So the next slide we have taken again from our database, which is available with us. We have taken the fuel consumption data of 2020, and we have tried to use the data if in case nothing is done, what happens in 21, 22, and 23. We can see that the ships are moving from more towards D and E category. And you can see in 2023, the percentage falling into D and E category roughly comes around 54%, whereas when you see in 2020, they are roughly around 44% basically. So what is happening if nothing is being done? These ships which are in A, B, and C start going to D and E, which the IMO discourages from the point that they don't want a ship to have a rating, continuous rating D in D category for more than 2 times or in E category. And that becomes an issue which needs to be addressed by using the energy saving devices. We can go to the next slide, sir. So these are the factors which are available. Basically, we can use, improve operation. There was a SEEMP, if you look at that, SEEMP part 1 was there basically, but we never used SEEMP part 1. It was kept on board. Not many ship owners or managers used it, but these are the things which can be used. We can listed over here, and we can see that how the operational efficiency can be improved. Here I have talked about something on the biofuels and the alternate fuels. Again, alternate fuels part, I have not discussed in detail, but I'll say that the industry is working on this, but it requires a good approach by various range of industry people, governments, lending institutions, plant, engine manufacturers, yards. They need to come together because they need to look into what the advantage and disadvantage of the various fuels which can be used, because this is it is not very clear, though we know the properties, but definitely the infrastructure needs to develop, the storage capacities need to build up. So these all things will lead to the understanding as to which will be the fuel which will be useful to us. While we know that the fuel which is seen to be visible is LNG, we have been using this fuel for a good amount of time. Our use with this is we are familiar with this basically, but we see that LNG can be a fuel which can be used for the next 5 years if in case we want to see that how best our CO2 emissions or decarbonization can take place. So we can put the next slides. So this is talking about the SEEMP part 3, what all data is required, what SEEMP part 3 will contain. This will be again listed based upon when the submissions are made. It is for information only that SEEMP part 3 is required. The owners have to see that the implementation plan is aware, and they are aware of how they will set the improvement into their own system to see that the carbon intensity indicator is improved or retained basically either in A, B, C category, but let them not go down to D or E category. And if in case they go from D to E, the corrective action plans need to be prepared and approved by the administration or the RO basically. So when we go to the next slides. As far as IRS is concerned, sir, we have made fuels for these types of ships. Gas fuel vessels, LNG, LPG are available with us. We have made natural gas fuel for coastal vessels and inland vessels also. We have made guidelines on methanol fuel vessels and for fuel cell power vessel installations, high voltage use of guidelines of high voltage shore connection system for ships and for battery powered vessels. Why these guidelines are there? We have put into guidelines and not put into rules, but to see that as more and more experience will be gained, we'll be adding them to see that how best then we incorporate them in rules basically. We can go to the next slide, sir. So this talks about what we have done till now, again with the use of the industry. We are thankful to the industry to help us do something on this action. We have been able to run 2 cement carriers using the B20 biofuel, wherein we attained a reduction of CO2 by almost 7% basically, and there was no impact on NOx or SOx basically. That is also a good point. We are working with the yard and the engine manufacturer to have hydrogen power cell vessels ready by maybe by this year, and we should be able to have such a ship operating. And we have also operated one first vessel basically, which is on this Cochin KMRL, which is Cochin Metro Rail Limited, basically, where it is the hybrid propulsion has been used, and we have been successfully utilized the lithium-ion battery for operation of such a vessel. And we are working on the approval of these lithium-ion batteries once they are going to manufactured in our country, basically. So the last slide talks about what IRIS can do for the industry. We have prepared a web-based electronic tool which can help us to do the EEXI calculation. It is simple. You feed the data, it is available. And if the attained EEXI less than the required EEXI, the technical file is prepared and can be submitted straight away to IRIS for approval. And we can undertake these EEXI assessments, issue you IEC certificate. We can help you what energy saving devices can be fitted by using our CFD analysis. We have also prepared the CII tool, which can be used again for measurement of CII ratings basically. And at last, we can conduct various trainings and workshops like this to see that how best we can help the industry. We are geared up to see that how best in the initial phase of short-term measures, we can help the industry. And we are always open to any desire the industry may have and obtain from us, sir. Thank you, sir.
Arora sir, if you can quickly touch on what Indian ship owners or what those 90% should be doing.
We are talking about 2 things basically. First, the basic requirement for a ship owner to continue his existing ship to operate is EEXI. That's the first point. CII will be coming later, but CII is also inbuilt into the EEXI, what I said. So for the EEXI part, as I said, that whatever ship we have calculated for these 40 vessels, which are still not meeting as I shown on the screen, the EPL will help them to achieve reduction so that they can attain EEXI, can come to a value lesser than the required EEXI. Only thing is that they need to see that whatever speed reduction which will take place in the range of 5 to 12% of 15%, that speed is going to be acceptable to the charters, and then they can achieve that, they can have their attained EEXI met to the required EEXI. Suppose in such a certain cases where the attained EEXI still does not meet by applying the EPL basically, then in that case, there are other measures which they need to look into, which are simple in nature, like we said, the use of propeller boss tap fins, or they can use some duct around the propeller. These are simple methods, or if in case the bulb is not fitted, basically they can fit that also. And after fitment of that, these are energy saving devices, which I said, the CFD analysis can be done to see that the V reference can be obtained, and then we can calculate the attained EEXI basically. So the ship owner needs to understand 2-3 things basically. EPL reduction is known to him, how much he can have, and whether attained EEXI is coming equal to or less than the required EEXI. If it is not, then he has to do something, and that he should do before the vessel dry dock. Now we are already in 2022. If the vessels are going to be dry docked this year, and he has already calculated that, and he finds that EPL is not helping them, he needs to see that what energy saving devices can be fitted now so that he can achieve it. Otherwise, it will be difficult for him to obtain the energy efficiency certificate, basically. Second part, I said that while the owners are looking for EEXI, they need to also start thinking about the CII part, basically, because CII is something like, as it is an operational efficiency. In India, we are running ships which are old. which are old, and it is very difficult and it is not easy to see that how the operational efficiency can be improved year on year, which the IMO expects from these ships. So in that case, my request to all the ship owners will be that when you are calculating the EEXI and the CII, try to see that if something needs to be done on the EEXI part also, that means if any other energy saving devices can be fitted, which will help you tomorrow to have a CII, improved CII, please do that basically. Again, this combination of calculations we are able to do for you, and we are doing also for ship owners. We are telling them what to be done, and this exercise can go on. They need to think about two things. If the EEXI hasn't met, but the operation efficiency they want to improve a later stage, that also can be done. Let us say dry dock is going to fall due next year, but you have met the EEXI by EPL reduction. Don't worry. Next year, you can fit some energy saving devices at the time of dry dock so that you stay in A, B, C category, the CII part, so that your vessels can continue to operate for the period of at least 2026, because 26 onwards, we don't know the reductions which are available, and these reductions will be decided only in the year 2026. So I think I have been, that's what I wanted to share with the people on the EEXI part.
Right, thank you, sir.
So, there are some questions and there are some comments. So what I'll do is quickly run through the questions first. And I suggest the speakers, the panelists themselves figure out who would be the best suited to answer the question. The first question is Nilesh Tucker. When calculating EEXI for a vessel, if the vessel is using LNG as fuel, or methane slips addressed?
Answer this question. So currently, it is. I'll say the answer is no, sir. Currently, the answer is no. Only thing what is being done, EEXI will not be impacted. If in case you want to address the methane slip, there are some combustion efficiency can be obtained where you can improve the combustion and reduce the methane slip. That is the technology can be used, but that will impact only the CII part. But the EEXI part will not be. Right now, there is nothing on this issue.
Okay. I'd like to thank Mr. Bose, Mr. Vijay Arora, Captain Basin, Mr. Sachin Kulkarni, Mr. Jitendra Nimagada, and Mr. Mukesh Kumar, and also Future Fuels for the effort that they've taken in setting this up. And we are looking to more and more these kind of sessions coming in. Of course, there's a section that follows ours, so I'm keenly going to listen to the speakers that come into the next session. Once again, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.